I welcome you all to the national webinar organized by National Atlas and Thematic Mapping Organization. This is the 28th event of the year-long celebration of the 75th year of Indian independence. Today we are going to celebrate the International Tourism Day. Before proceeding to the event, I request all the participants to mute their audio to avoid interruptions. World Tourism Day is celebrated each year on 27th of September. It is the global observance day fostering awareness of tourism's social, cultural, political and economic value and the contribution that the sector can make towards reaching the sustainable development goals. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a massive social and economic impact on both developed and developing countries. United Nations has therefore designated World Tourism Day 2021 as a day to focus on tourism for inclusive growth. The restart of tourism will help kickstart recovery and growth of the economies. I would request our respected Director Madam Dr. Taputi Banerjee to say a few words on today's occasion. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Shreya. Good afternoon to all whosoever are present in this webinar web platform. First of all, I would like to invite all the members from NATMO and the members who were outside NATMO and present over here. And especially I welcome Mr. Raj Basu, popularly he is popular in the tourism industry. Now today we will listen from him, and in this webinar series, today is the 28th series event we are organizing in the to commemorate the 75 years of Indian independence. And I hope his experience, our guest speaker, his experience, vast experience, especially in the homestays and the rural areas, will help us to know how to reach. And after the COVID situation, I hope that tourism industry will revive at the full-fledged as before. So today we will listen from him to know about that tourism, especially in the homestay events, how it is possible and how best it can be utilized and developed. So I request Shreya to invite our guest speaker to deliver his lecture. With this, I thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have with us our speaker of the day, Raj Basu, advisor, rural tourism and homestays, government of Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. He is the founder of Health Tourism and Association for Conservation and Tourism, Kolkata. Raj Basu, alias Supratim Basu, is known as the Tourism Gandhi for his in-depth knowledge in tourism as philosophy. His 3 decades of work with rural communities of East and Northeast of India, along with adjoining Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. He founded the first tourism NGO, Association for Conservation and Tourism, ACT, in 2001. He had been engaged in policy framework for the Kingdom of Bhutan. He has initiated various tourism festivals. He has received the award from His Majesty King Birendra Veer Vikram Shah Dev during 1998 visit Nepal for his contribution towards tourism. Health Tourism received India Tourism CNBC Award in 2009 and also Best Adventure Travel Company on Earth by National Geographic in 2007, along with several other rewards such as Outlook Traveler, Most Responsible Tour Operator, etc. etc. It is our privilege, sir, that we have got a chance to hear from you, and we are eagerly waiting for the presentation on the topic you have chosen, how COVID-19 influences hospitality, tourism, education, challenges, opportunities, and new directions. And the topic on which he will be talking today, rural tourism and homestay movement. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, Shreyaji. Namaste, and like all of you who are present here today. It is a wonderful afternoon that we have after 2-3 days of rain that we have had over here. And unfortunately, a lot of our internets were down, which has started. They have started repairing it since uh, yesterday. So I'm on internet which is partly working. If you can't hear me, please you can put on the chat that if I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, sir, you are very much audible to all of us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shreyaji, and thank you, Tapodiri, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of the NATMO initiative of the 75 years of Indian independence. Certainly, all of you know that World Tourism Day is a very, very important day to the entire world, because tourism is an industry which is the largest industry in the world. In our country itself, it adds to 10% of the GDP and 12% of the employment that it generates across the country. So under such, what has happened is, in the process of these 2 years, more than 40 to 47% of the total employees or the total people, entrepreneurs who were in this industry, have either shifted or are out of work. So under these circumstances, it has been almost impossible to cope up with the upcoming tourism season that is coming up. That is number one. So we have been preparing to every level that we can do justice to the upcoming season that is coming up, because of this pujas, Diwalis, Christmas, and so on. Just to tell you a little bit about the travel, let me just tell you, travel is something which is not a luxury. It is not that there is an option to travel or no option to travel. Like, to live, for our body to live, we need food that has to go into the body. Similarly, if we need our mind to develop, we need to travel, because if we do not travel, then the mind will stop developing. So that is the reason, in the past, when you go back to the Rig Vedas, you find the word Brahman. So it basically comes, Brahm means going around, Brahm. Rains for the past many. You have seen Calcutta was, almost drowned halfway. Fortunately, electricity is there, but net connectivity was not there. Sunday, we couldn't do anything. Only from yesterday, it has been half working. I'm extremely sorry to everyone, but I continue with my discussion with all of you. Again, I would namaste to all of you, and I would like to continue that, what has happened in this past several years of travel that we've had from the industry, which was the most popular industry in this country, which employed the maximum number of people. From there, again, when after 2 years, when we don't know how tourism is going to start, but we see a hope that before this, the Shera and Diwali holidays, probably we will get some footholds. Those of us who are with the industry would get some foothold, and because we are seeing into some hope that is coming up. So keeping that in mind, as I was saying, as I was discussing, that travel to us, to all of us as human beings, is neither a luxury nor it is a kind of option. Travel to us is an essential community which we have to undertake for the growth of our mind. And if we do not undertake travel, it is like no food for the body. So the body wouldn't grow without the travel that we are going to have. Under such circumstances, people have been dying to travel, dying to go out of their houses, and with this pandemic situation now being a little better than other situations that we've had in the past 2 years, people have started this traveling. In the past, in our country, we have always known that travel has been an integral part of our life. And we have, traveled from one place to the other as a part of pilgrimage. And we called it Tirth Yatra. We never called it Tirth because it is not about, just going to a particular destination and offering your prayers, but it is about the travel that you undertook in those days, so many hundreds and thousands of years ago, that you had to cross the rivers, you crossed through the forest, you crossed through the mountains, you walked across the mountains, and finally had to reach to your destination to give your worship. So this entire travel, that was the yatra which was there, was a learning process for the human being, for the man or the woman who undertook this Tirth Yatra. And this entire education, when he or she came back to their house, they used to be respected separately because of their intelligence and their experience of travel that they have undertaken. So under such circumstances, travel has always been a very essential part that we have been looking into it. When we talk about travel, my topic today is rural tourism and the homestay movement. Why rural tourism and homestay movement? Because I belong to an area which is north of West Bengal, and we are surrounded by several countries. Only less than 2% through the chicken's neck, where I'm sitting now, Siliguri, it is known as the chicken's neck of the country. So less than 2% of our borders are with the country, and almost 98% of the borders are with the adjoining countries of Nepal, Bhutan, Tibet, Myanmar, Bangladesh. And most of the time, people have seen this as a disadvantage of being, landlocked. But we have always seen that tourism has made this region land linked. So when we started working in this area, we saw that the best part that happens, it happens in the villages, because more than 80% of our landscape consists of villages. And as you know, the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, has said that India lives in our villages. So any development that we think about, including tourism, can never do without keeping in view our villages, because our villages are a very much integral part not only of the country, but has to be the decision making of the country, has to be the core of our development pattern of our country. And the model has been shown by none other than our own Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Through his initiative of Sriniketan, you have seen that how the entire village development was included as a part of the inclusive development, which is the theme of World Tourism Day that we have. And when we say inclusive growth, so inclusive growth without villages is almost impossible. But unfortunately, in our country, most of the time we have forgotten, or we have probably kept aside describing a village. Most of us, when we describe a village within a state or within the country, we say that what is not rural, what is not urban, what is not a city, what is not a town, is a village. A village is often described as a cluster of spread out houses which are not multi-storied. But unfortunately, we do not realize that a village is not only a cluster of houses, but the agricultural fields which are adjoining to the village of this cluster of houses. The nature, the wonderful biodiversity that is part of the village, from where we get the pure water, the pure soil, and the pure air. So our villages are actually not only destinations, but our villages are places from where we can heal. We can heal through this soil, we can heal through this water, we can heal through this air that we have over here. So concentrating on village tourism and rural tourism most of the time during this post-pandemic period has become extremely important. And that is the reason I have chosen to discuss with all of you, village tourism and homestay movement. Let me tell you over here that when we talk about villages and rural tourism, we started this movement around 30 years ago. And when we started this movement, we saw that the mainstream of the conventional tourism businesses were not very eager to invest into villages. So the infrastructure couldn't be developed in these villages. And that is when back in 1993-94, we as an organization known as Help Tourism, and later we had to grow and spread to the people, and we had Association for Conservation and Tourism, which again was registered in 2001. We decided that the pillars of the hospitality of any village should be the homestays, because homestays were places for authentic interaction, both culturally and environmentally. And that is the reason we chose homestays. And all of you know that homestays in Asia means the fireplace that all of us share. The fire that is the kitchen that we have. That is the when you come to this part of the world, when you come to this northeastern, this Himalayan part over here, you will find that every house is known for its kitchen. So a guest is actually invited to the kitchen. They share the food in the kitchen. They have their stories being told in the kitchen. They share their sorrows and joys in the kitchen. So kitchen, the fire is actually the core of the homestays. And that is how we describe, when we describe homestays, is a place where, the authentic encounters with the local cultural and natural phenomenon actually takes place over here. And this is what we should expect from the village. A village is not about, a homestay in a village is not about what the luxuries are there, because most of the time when we talk about homestays nowadays, a lot of us think that it is a cheaper version of a hotel or a resort or a guest house. I would make it very clear to you that it is a very different concept where people can get very authentic experiences. And these experiences come with the local people who stay over there in this local landscape, who are, very much connected to nature. And that is the reason we always look at villages, even when you go to a village over here in this remote areas of the Indo-Nepal border, you walk into any village, and just before sunset, if you say, Bas Painsa, like, can I get some accommodation? And you will find that 80% of the village people will come out of their house and invite you to their houses for the night hall and for the food. So this is the hospitality of this region that we have. This kind of hospitality is very rare in the rest of the world. This is something what Asia is proud of. And most of the time in our philosophy, we say, Atithi Devo Bhava, guest is our God. And that is very often spoken in India, Nepal, and other adjoining countries also. But when you talk about Atithi Devo Bhava, most of the time we forget the previous part of it. What is the previous part of it? The previous part of it is Pita Devo Bhava, Mata Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava. That means a place, a village where our fathers are kept well, a place or the village where our mothers are kept well, a place or a village, where our teachers who has handheld us all this time, they are kept well. Then only this can be a place where our guests can be called, our guests can be invited, and the guest can be our God. So this is something what is priceless. This is something where you cannot add any kind of value. So this is a major movement of responsible tourism that we are talking about. So when we talk about responsible tourism and authentic experiences in the village, we talk about our traditions. And as I told you, for us, the village that we have, the village is something, that has its backyard biodiversity. The backyard biodiversity that gives us the basics. the basics of our food, clothing, and shelter. It all comes from the backyard biodiversity. If you keep aside all these schemes of, Awas Yojana or the different kind of schemes that we have, you will find that our people for hundreds and thousands of years have built their own houses with the material that has been available locally. They have found their food, 50% of their food came from agriculture, and 50% of their food came from the herbs, the shrubs, the roots, the leaves that we got into the forest, into the backyard biodiversity that was adjoining to us. The cotton that we got from the forest, we could weave our own clothes. So, we were a sustainable society. The culture which is still found in the east and northeast part of India, when you go to any of these villages, you will find this culture. And this culture, is very rooted in our society over here. So this is where the homestay plays a major role. When all the countries are struggling to achieve the sustainable development goals, it is here in our villages we have already, achieved something what is more than the sustainable development goals. Over here in our region where we have enough nature, there is no dearth of food, clothing, and shelter. That is, part of the culture of the communities over here, the connection to nature. So to connect to nature, we found out our own ways. Because when you talk to a farmer, when you see a farmer practicing with his soil, or when the farmer is sowing his seeds, he doesn't go into his computer or his mobile to find out when he has to sow the seed. He can see by the weather, he can see by the air that is coming, that when he has to sow the seed. He knows by the bird which says, "Bew chor," like you leave the seeds now on the soil. That means he knows that this bird has come. That means the call of this bird is we have to start sowing. In the same way, he or she exactly knows when to harvest. Similarly, when you look at a shepherd, the shepherd with the goat and the sheep, when they go into the forest, the whole day they do not carry a tiffin carrier, or they do not carry a water bottle with them, which means they are in the forest the whole day. They are neither, they have their thirst, they have their food, but they are so connected to nature that they exactly know that how to quench their thirst, how to fill their stomach with the food that is available in the nature. So they are so much connected to the nature. The mother of the house, who cooks the food according to the season. During summers, she exactly knows what are the herbs and shrubs that has to be brought from the forest. The mother of the house knows that what is good for healing of the body. So that means all these people, the farmer, the mother of the house, the shepherd, and further when we look, when we talk about the shaman, and the shaman who is who is the only doctor in the village, who looks after you by bringing out the medicinal herbs from the forest. This knowledge which is there, we consider them as our gurus. We consider them as the people who can show us the way to sustainability. That is the reason we at Help Tourism and Association for Conservation and Tourism has started this movement of rural tourism and homestays, which we call as Guruvas. So each of this village, when we say inclusive growth, it is not about the revenue that reaches the homestay. It is not about the direct or indirect, the supply chain that is connected to the homestay, but it is the entire village which is inclusive of this, of this growth of tourism that is taking place, which is recognizing the people who are into traditional lifestyle, recognizing them as gurus and calling them guruvas. So, these kind of aspects, when it comes from the village, that means these places are classrooms of, sustainable development, classrooms of sustainable tourism. So this is how we look into the rural tourism and homestay movement. That is the reason when I started this topic, I said that I'm going to talk about the rural tourism and the homestay movement that we are having. So when we come to these places, we always think that it is not about touch and go. It is not about a few points of sightseeing that we usually do in destinations. But these part of the tourism, the village tourism, or these homestay experiences are actually immersions. Immersions that are going to heal us physically, immersions that are going to heal us mentally. So these healing process are very important, during this period. So to do this, we have created a certain guidelines. We are talking to the local state governments to bring it into the policy of sustainable and responsible tourism policy. And we have created training programs for the villagers, that the tradition that they have, the tradition of connecting to nature that they have, how they could interpret that to the guests that are coming to them. So these important factors, keeping them in view, we have started this movement of Guruvas, and we have very celebrity people who have come up from these villages. People like Baichung Bhutia, who hails from a very small, tiny village in South Sikkim known as Tinkitam. He comes from that village, and he has become one of the most successful football captains of our country. All of you know, he is known for his for being a sports personnel, but the program that we have started with him is known as Boots to Roots. So he travels with us into these villages, and when the youths get attracted to him and say that we would like to wear your two red boots like you, we want to play football like you. So then he explains how his involvement with his family, milking the cow, plowing the fields, bringing the honey from the forest, all these things, how important it was to make his life into a successful sportsman, because his physical and mental ability in the village has helped him to be a successful captain. So as an ambassador of the sustainable tourism or Guruvas, today he travels with us to the different villages. I actually wanted to show you a small film and documentary that we have made on him and his village, which I wanted to share with you, but because of the internet factor, it is not very, the audio is not very clear. But let me tell you that when all of you visit these villages are not only about, as I told you, about visiting these places, looking after your food and accommodation, and sending you to some places of sightseeing, but these villages are more about connecting you to this sustainability. And then how do you connect to this sustainability? What do you have inside you that connects you to this sustainability? There are some skills that when you are staying in these cities that you have adopted during this period. So many of you who have been good educationists, so you can go and volunteer in this school for a period of 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 8 weeks. Some of you who have skills in medical support, because none of these villages have any kind of medical support, so you can help the people of this village with medical support, running medical camps over here. Similarly, there are very small rural enterprises that are due over here, because when we look at our farmers, when we look at our milkman, when we look at our at our shepherds, when we look at our shamans, we don't look at them as entrepreneurs. They can easily be rural entrepreneurs over here. And you can actually, when you go to these villages, you can actually help them to develop this entrepreneurship skills when you go to these villages. So these are very important contributions that during your stay, when you are learning this sustainable lifestyles from these villages, in exchange you can teach these villages, you can volunteer for these villages, to give them the skills that is there inside you. As a scientist, as the head of the mapping institution actually. You can help them to map the entire region, which the village that is there has never been mapped, because there are still pockets which we say is beyond the Google map. So places where there is no internet connectivity. So when you are from this very prestigious organization of NATMO, we would want you all to come and volunteer in our villages, stay for longer time and help our villages with the skills that you have. So this kind of exchange program, can not only bring our city people close to the village people, but also help the village people to retain their traditional lifestyles in sustainability. Otherwise, we are fast changing them. Just imagine an entire village where there are no shops over there, because most of the marketing, most of the needs are fulfilled by exchange programs. They exchange rice for oil. Somebody who has oil exchanges oil for salt. That is how we had a barter system. So all our hearts were actually battered hearts, which we still have. All the weekly hearts between villages, that's a place which are festivals actually, which are places of festivals. We'll find that the women and the men, they wear their best clothes during this weekly hearts, because the youth, they try to find out, the people, the youth, they want to find out their, the couple that they
Sir, we cannot hear you, sir. Sir, are you there? Yes, sir, we can see you now. Yes, no, sir, you're not audible. Sir, you're not audible yet.
I'm still not audible. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, we can hear you now.
Okay,
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 sir.
okay.
So you can carry on.
I'm extremely sorry that the kind of connectivity I have, and probably I'm boring all of you with this lack of connectivity and the long talk, because I thought I could.
Sir, 1 minute, sir. You're not at all boring us. We are thoroughly enjoying the
Sir,
speech. You can continue, sir.
thank you,
Doesn't matter.
thank you. Could you all of you listen to the voluntourism that you could do to be voluntourists to the villages? Could you listen to that?
Yes, sir, we heard till that.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, these are the kind of interactions that we look forward to you when you visit to our villages. When you come to our villages, it is not only about the sustainable lifestyle and the gurus of the villages teaching you, but you also, as skillful people, that you can contribute to this country through the villages, actually come, because your coming to these villages brings in appreciation for the traditions that we have, the traditions of sustainability that we have, and this, appreciations bring pride to the people. So, through these years of rural tourism that we have had, these homestays have been places which has empowered the ladies in the houses, who always have been, the major workers, who have been the faces of our country without any voice. So when you come to these homestays, most of the ownership of these homestays are with the women over here. Because the homestays, when you talk about authentic culture of a village, the men of the village are already into their pants and shirts, but it is the woman of the house who is traditionally dressed, who goes to a small little festival, who is very traditionally dressed. So the tradition is so well held in our villages by the women, that, the food that they cook in their houses, the kind of, experiences that they give you by building by taking you to the agricultural fields, by, by repairing the houses. All these skills are equally, if not more, in the women over here. So the women are actually the strength of this rural tourism and the homestay movement. The second thing that we have seen, that when you visit these villages and you appreciate these traditions, then what happens, this entire villages, and especially the youth, when they see you with your laptop, with your big cameras, and then you are appreciating, from the kind of work that you do, from the urban lifestyle that you lead, because this is what they see in their mobiles, on the TV and everywhere. So when they look at you and they see that, you appreciate them milking their cows, you appreciate them, they're making their own, maize, their maize flour, or their wheat flour in their own chakki. So all these small kind of, interferences actually can bring in a lot of changes, can bring in a lot of motivation within the villages, that our youth, the major problems that we have in our villages is education today, because we don't have the quality of education that has to be there in the villages. And that is one of the reason that when the youth, they grow up, they have to move to the nearest town for their education, and from the nearest town they go to the bigger city for more higher education. So under such circumstances, what happens is, they once they start traveling, once they start migrating, then they cannot come back to the villages. This is when, they get very much, when they come to the villages, they get used to the city life. So when you as a tourist, when you as a guest, you visit these villages, then what happens, after seeing this appreciation, they come back from these towns and cities, and they slowly start settling down, because then they see that this person from Delhi, that this person from Bangalore, this person from Calcutta, Chennai, Mumbai, Guwahati, they are coming to their villages. They are appreciating the knowledge, the local knowledge that they have, and they are appreciating the way they can connect their guests to nature. All this, brings so much pride within this youth, that they stop migrating from their villages. So our rural tourism movement that we have done through these years have brought back a lot of youth from the different, cities, and from the different countries of this world to the villages, which has been, I think, this has been one of the biggest achievement of working as a team with these villages. So it is a slow process. It is not a fast process, but it is a process where travel is necessary. Travel for all of you to these villages. Travel for these villagers to your houses, because this travel is not only about money. When you reach out to them, as you could have understood, that it is not about the money that we are talking about, but it is the relation that we are making. It is the relation between the urban and the rural that we are creating, that tomorrow, if they want their children to go into a higher education, they would know that you are there to help them in the city. Tomorrow, if they want their parents to get a better medical facility, they know that you have been to their houses, and they can connect you to get to the best doctor in that city, which they could have never had access to actually. So it is creating a relation through tourism. So that is the reason when we say tourism for inclusive growth. So it is not only about a one-sided thing, that we as tourists, we as a traveler, that we are paying money, and we as because we are paying money, there is some products that we are getting. Tourism is not about products. As I told you, it is a very old term that comes from the Rig Veda, which is known as Brahman. And when you talk about Brahman, Brahm, and which it means when your mind has to develop through traveling, and when you are not traveling outside, then you are traveling inside, and that is what makes you a monk. Even when you are into your family, even when you are into your job, you are actually a monk, because you are either traveling outside or you are traveling inside. Because when we are all stuck up in our houses during the pandemic situation, all of us who had actually learned how to travel inside, have through our experience of travel outside, actually have not felt bored, or have not felt the trouble of staying into the house, because we could travel inside. So it is my request that all of us, we travel to villages, we immerse ourselves into the villages, and we try and make, through our travel, we try and make our villages a part of our inclusive growth. So this is what I wanted to say. I will try and share the screen, a small video, that we have actually made on Guruvas, and on Baichung Bhutia ji, that we wanted to show you, that I wanted to show you. I was discussing with the rest of the team. Let me see if I can share it. This is Baichung Ji's house in his village in Tingkitam. The major part of the house is the place of prayer. As you see, tourism for sustainable development. Shreyaji, is the sound audible by any chance?
No, sir, we cannot hear.
You cannot, but you can see the images only, no?
Yes, yes. We can see it clearly, but we cannot hear, sir.
So I'm very sorry, because I couldn't
It's
adjust
okay,
the sound.
sir. It's wonderful. You can explain as you are doing,
Yes.
sir. We are
So,
enjoying.
so this is the traditional part of the house, and the small little structure that you saw next are, two rooms that his traditional house they offered to the guest. This is Baichungji himself, who is talking about this school that where he started his schooling from. So he got educated over here from this small little village known as Tinkitam. The school is now a building. So he comes back to his village very often, and he has built his own team in his village with the school children, both with the boys and girls playing. And this place is known as the Tinkitam Sanganath school that you can see, and he comes and trains these children on a regular basis, because that is what everyone wants, is to wear this pair of red boots, and be a footballer like Baichung Bhutia ji. And you can actually see how interested these village children are, and how enthusiastic they are when it comes to football. You can see the energy in their faces. Most of these children that you see over here at this age have traveled to many states, to play over here. And Baichungji makes sure that he returns to his village. He gives them the jersey, the pants, the equipment, the boots, the football. That is what he provides to all the boys and girls who are interested in football. And he practices with all of them on a regular basis. Though he's been coaching a lot of national level teams across Asia and other places of Europe, but he still continues to go back to his village and help in training the boys and girls. This you can see the interested girls, and he always makes sure that the girls also play with the boys on a regular basis, because as I told you, our villages are all about the strong women, and they are not only strong mentally, but they are strong physically also, because they look after the fields, they look after the house, they look after the children, and they are the economy of the villages that are there. So Baichungji says, in those days, this was only, a primary school. So beyond the primary school, he had to walk for 3 hours, waking up early in the morning and get to the only bus that used to be there. And through these kind of roads that you see, they had to reach the market, and they had to reach the nearest bus stop, because this bus had to come from far away. And sometimes when they reached the bus stop, they couldn't even see the bus coming in. So the bus would probably be cancelled, and they had to walk up all the way back through this tedious road, which he says, he finds it tiring now at his age over here, because he has lost the practice of walking to his village from the bus stand or from the market. Or in those days, in his childhood days, he could carry a bag of a ginger to the nearest market during the hard day, during the market day, weekly market day. So he could carry it over there, and he could take it all the way, 7 to 9 kilometers on the steep road of the mountains. He would go, and sell the milk, he would sell the ginger, he sell the butter into the weekly market. So that is what he thinks have made him strong physically and mentally. We would see more of his activities that he does in the village, because now these children whom he has been teaching to play football, he also teaches them how to go back to the roots. So it is known as from roots to the roots. You can see this is Baichungji's mother, the mother who is extremely strong, who controls the entire house over here. Any number of guests, as you can see, they come and sit around this traditional kitchen. As I was telling you, this is the fire, which is the drawing room or the sitting room of the village house, which is, the place for interacting, because other villagers would come to this room and, and talk to the family. So this is the place, the fire or the kitchen in the house is the place where, they interact. Here is a traditional, a craftsman who can make plows, who still knows how to make the plow with the help of local wood. So you can see, the plow has been made. How strong from their childhood, and the young woman, you can see she could carry this heavy plow herself. And this is how, Baichungji has been teaching the children of the village, how to plow this difficult fields. It is not a very easy field. You can see lot of stone and hard mud is over here. This is how they make their flour out of the out of the grains of maize, that is corn and wheat and rice. They make this, this one over here. I can see some of you living, because you probably can't hear to the sound. You can see the mighty Kanchenjunga, that is the guardian deity, that can be seen over here. Uh, and this is a traditional house that still lives in the village. Shriyaji, I think it is already past 1:30, and a lot of people are leaving actually. So,
But sir, you can continue.
okay.
There is no problem. You can
Okay,
finish.
okay. But I will make sure that I, email you this entire, documentary, so that you can share it with the rest of the people who are there in this group today. But in the meanwhile,
Of course, sir.
you can see this is a traditional house of made of bamboo, the traditional roof, which is known as sero, because now the sero fields the he feeds the chicken, and he makes sure that he does that on a regular basis. You could, if I hope you could just listen to the sound, and the sound that he makes with his own voice, that he comes out a typical villager like a voice when he calls the chickens for the food. He milks the cow himself in the morning, so you can see that he strongly does that, and he does it on a regular basis. So we have actually been to his village, and these are the villagers who are from this village, whom we try and explain to them why they should protect their tradition, why they should stick to their traditional lifestyle. So we have been talking to these villagers about this on a regular basis. We've done more than 16 workshops in this village, where we have taught them waste management. You can see the traditional waste management, the traditional the different kind of produce that you can make without the shop, the cleansing material for the toilets, for the rooms, for your plate. Instead of using soap, how you can make cleansing material in your own house. We have been teaching them this traditional methods of converting waste to wealth. We haven't taught them, because with tourists we have seen that our village destinations get a lot of waste. So we teach the villagers that it is not about transferring the waste from one place to the other and throwing it into the nearby stream or throwing it at the side of the hill, but transforming this waste into wealth. So we have been teaching this on a regular basis in the villages. So that is what we have done in this village. We interact with the villages, the kind of materials that they use for their building, and we invite our Indian schools across the country who are involved with the course of architecture. We call them, and we make them get involved into this natural architecture. We call the students from the different universities where the architecture is being taught, and in the final year we tell them that you do 1 month of volunteering, and you learn this skill from the villagers of how to use the architecture of bamboo, of cane, of timber, of stone in these villages on a day-to-day basis, because this is something what always stays with us. You can see he continues to speak about it. I think, Shreyaji, a lot of them are leaving because of the time constraint. And
Sir,
yes,
sir, you can take your time, sir. There is no time constraint. You can finish the video as you are doing.
okay, okay. So thank you, Shreyaji. Those who are still seeing it, those who are still enjoying it, I'll make sure that you get the copy of this through Shreyaji, through on your email, if possible. You can see this is a traditional shaman. And this is what a traditional shaman does. He says that shamanism is not something that comes through heredity. So his grandson who just passed him, not necessarily that he would become a shaman. This is something what a shaman gets by birth. So this knowledge that comes to him from the forest, that is the reason in the Himalayas he is known as the Ban Jhakri. The Ban Jhakri is the shaman who can connect to nature, who can connect to the forest, and he knows exactly which are the herbs and shrubs with medicinal value. So he brings out these herbs. He has his own mantras to say over here for curing. So the medicinal plants and the mantras together, makes him the shaman or makes him the village doctor. So all these traditional values are what slowly going away. So we have made sure that we have called the village people together. We have called the village youth who have been educated outside, the village in different places. We have called them together, and we have made sure that they get educated, but they come back to their village and they practice rural tourism and homestays and be sustainable leaders, instead of being just political leaders they would be sustainable leaders into their villages. So we create sustainable villagers out of the youth, those who come back to their villages after higher education in different cities of the country and abroad. So you can see we have called this youths also, and we have been explaining them, training them, motivating them to go into this kind of sustainable leadership programs and to stay back in the village, find out entrepreneurship for themselves. So a lot of them have now started staying in the village across north of West Bengal and Sikkim, in eastern Nepal, in Bhutan, and in north of Bangladesh. So we have been able to achieve this through our rural tourism and homestays over here. Uh, so we have uh, done some moments that we have been showing. I'll go a little faster. You can see the house inside where people can stay, and you can see Baichungji in the different occasions that he has been, uh, you know, uh, His Holiness Dalai Lama and Pele and everybody who has been with him. But he also doesn't miss his agriculture. He makes sure that he introduces the elder brother of the village, who is his neighbor, and he's one of the best organic farmers in the state today, because all of you know that Sikkim is a complete organic state. And it is because he says it is because of farmers like Mr. Pemba, whom he is introducing as his elder brother from the village. So we have people like him who grows a lot of things organically, which is of great value to the different cities. So you can see strawberry, you can see the other things that is being grown over here, and this is in lot of demand. So the food and life, as you can see, is very simple over here. I'm going a little fast forward with that. And as we come back, we explain the concept of pure water, pure air, and the pure soil that is our villages that we have, the traditions that keep this purity. So this is what we know as villages. So please come and visit these villages. Please be a part of this village tourism and homestay movement in this part of the country. Thank you very much, all of you, for your patient hearing. Uh, I think we'll get back to the main this one. So this was something what what I wanted. I think I have to go out of this. Stop sharing the screen. Yes. So I'm very grateful to all of you that who have given a very patient hearing. But I would more want that all of you be a part of this movement of this rural tourism and this homestay movement that we have started in this part of the country. We would more want all of you to be here and make sure that I can send this documentary to Shreyaji and Tapodidi, who can actually share it with the rest of you over here. I hope I could be a little help, Tapodidi, to the entire people that you have invited to listen to me as a as a resource person today on the 75th year of this entire series that you have been doing. It has been a great honor that you have called me for this occasion. Thank you, Tapodidi, and thank you the entire team of Natmo for inviting me. Thank you very much, and namaste.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an excellent presentation. Thank you for reminding us that it is our responsibility to volunteer, to connect with the local people so that we can get connected to the nature as well. Thank you so much, sir. And one thing I really liked that you have mentioned here, that traveling is like food for our body. So it is a very big thing that you have said, and we will always keep that in mind. Thank you so much, sir. We will proceed to the interactive session. But before that, I request all the participants to kindly turn on their video cameras. I would request our respected director, madam, to say a few words on today's presentation. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent presentation. It's really nice what you have told us. We have learned a lot. Actually, when I was seeing your biodata, the first line it was written that Tourism Gandhi. Now I could feel why you are known as Tourism Gandhi. Really, your ideas of rural areas, their hospitality to the traveler as Athithi Deva Bhava, and the Guru was really a new sense for us. I think some of the persons might know that, but really it is a very new concept for us. And your idea of connectivity with sustainability, that's really a great idea. And as you have told that traveling is a food, and I feel traveling is a really, although if not physical, it's a really a mental food for all of us, for all the human beings. And I could remember this regarding this homestay, my 25 years back, that I enjoyed it near Jalamukhi temple. And when I actually, my grandparents, they are living in rural areas of Krishnagar. But in my childhood, I used to visit twice in a year. But now, after grown up, I could not find that sense, that essence of real village in that area. So obviously we will visit, and your tourism idea, you have opened our eyes in a new concept with your new concept. And that is tourism should not be a product, and its relation to develop relation with a deep relation and insight of the village. And we are NATMO, as a part of our work, we do mapping for the tourism also. We have developed that tourism map on adventure tourism, medical tourism, and obviously with your concept, I got a new idea. I request my tourism team, those who are engaged in tourism mapping, almost all are engaged, and I request them to initiate a new concept, tourism mapping on rural tourism. And very soon we will visit your areas for tourism, because this is not only the tourism. I feel that traditional knowledges, traditional ideas, and the skill development, we are also working on that skill development, especially the women's skill development in the rural areas with their indigenous knowledge. So obviously I will try to develop that part also. We can look after with your traditional knowledge, especially with the traditional values and herbs, as you mentioned. So with this, I again thank you. Really, it's an excellent presentation. I think you have touched our mind and our heart. So with this, I thank you again, sir. Thank you so much.
Now I request all the participants to come forward with their question, as I'm sure sir will be very happy to answer those.
Sir, this
Anyone?
is Banerjee from NATMO. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Sir, fortunately, I have the experience to stay in the homestay at Rabangla, South Sikkim, and Kibber village, the second highest village in the world of Laos Spiti. So my first question is, what are the challenges of rural tourism, and how do you think that tourism industry will survive amidst the pandemic COVID-19?
Anjana ma'am, the major challenges, Shreyaji, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you
Yes.
are.
The major challenges in rural tourism has been the big gap between urban and rural that we have today. Because in the past, what used to happen, if you remember in your childhood days, as Tapadidi was saying, your grandparents or your parents would take you to the village. You would spend a good amount of time in the village. But now we have stopped doing so with our children and with our grandchildren. So the gap between the urban and rural has so much increased. So sometimes it becomes a problem in understanding. And that is the reason we say that each and every urban school should have rural studies, which is very necessary, because these children should go and find out that where their food comes from, if nothing else. These children should go and see in their school days only and experience the villages, that in spite of the different weather condition, they get their food into their malls. So before they come to their malls, they should experience these villages. So we think, this connectivity has to be brought back by us. So this gap is one of the major challenges that we have. The second challenge that we have, because most of this youth in the villages have to migrate for their higher studies, because beyond primary school, there is no education in most of our villages. So they have to migrate to other places after that. So we do not have enough youth living in the villages actually. So that is the second problem that we have identified, we have seen over here. So these two aside, I think tourism has been a good connect. Tourism has brought in people like all of you to these villages, who have now supported to make these villages into model villages, where these traditions have been, kept as it is in these villages, and at the same time, the development process has taken place. So people like you have built the schools, people like you who come during this festival and share the joys with the people in the villages. So this is a continuing process, and I think it is not only about the government, but it is also about you and me, who has to bring in this change of bringing villages and villages and urban areas closer. Anjana, I think.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else who wants to ask question? Yes, absolutely. You can ask.
Okay. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, Subhajit,
Yes,
we can
Raj.
hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Raji, this is Subhajit Das from Presidency University. So basically, I'm from Geography Department, and I had a student who used to be, connected to you. Maybe she was having some kind of relation in terms of some family relation kind of things. So yeah, she was from Siliguri itself.
Okay.
So basically, I have been working in rural tourism field quite for a long time, since 2007, and I have seen many ups and downs there in villages, and many successful destinations, many unsuccessful destinations in Sikkim. So what I have found that when it comes at the business level,
Yes.
then the internal politics and commercial politics, that actually hampered the whole system. It actually starts with the the very ethical and moral ground, what we all know and what you said, nicely presented and all. But when it comes commercial section, so it has lots of challenges regarding internal politics, economic relations, and the power structure. Now, my specific question is that um, is there any way, because I think in a different way, like maybe if we think from the host side, that if they will be quite aware of these hampering power structure, what happens after the commercialization of the whole product, if they can manage that thing internally, probably that will be more sustainable, because guests will be always there and they will demand for something which doesn't go with their traditions, because this happens when it gets commercialized. But if the guest host communities, they manage the whole thing in terms of their cooperation, community participation, and kind of things, probably this may go for a further sustainability. So I really want to know about your opinions regarding the host communities' perspectives and how they could be more, thought about the further management.
Choose. Sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yes, I couldn't listen to the last part of Shubhajit, but still I will try and tell you. You know, our 30 years being our 30 years being with this rural tourism,
ওটা কালকে যখন বার করেছিল তখন
it
কত
has
নেমেছিল ওটা
it has
কালকে
been
যখন বার করেছিল তখন কত নেমেছিল
Participants, please mute their audio. I request
হ্যাঁ
everyone to mute their audio. Okay, sir, you continue.
yes. Shubhajit sir, can you hear me?
হ্যাঁ বল
Yeah, I can hear you. I think it's the voice.
হ্যাঁ
Yes. So let me tell you, Shubhajit, what has happened is, this has been an evolving process. This entire rural tourism and homestay movement, that's the reason I call it a movement. It has been an evolving process. We have seen when we started with villages, there was no road connectivity, there was no electricity, and there were no shops in these villages. So along with tourism came in roads, came in electricity, and came in shops, And when shops came in, then came in mineral water, came in gutka packets, came in shampoo sachets, came in small packets of milk and oil that was there. Suddenly the entire lifestyle economy started changing because people started having some amount of extra money in their hand. So here, over and over again, we have talked about policy at the panchayat level. Every panchayat level, that's the reason we have told all the governments that they should have district tourism officers. It is not because tourism, as you know, is a state subject, and the state should make sure that they have sustainable tourism.
So we cannot hear you again. Again, we are having network issue. Sir, are you there? Sir, are you there? Extremely sorry, we are having a continuous network issue.
Hello,
Yes, sir.
Shreyaji, am I audible again?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes. So when this 10 lakh rupees is actually, is taken by this villager, this poor person doesn't know what what he has done actually, the mistake that he has made. Because for him, he has sustainability. For him, he has a sustainable lifestyle. But for him, when he sees the glitters of life with money, he thinks that money means everything. Because for the higher education, for the medical of his parents, he needs that amount of money. So suddenly when he sells this land, and this person who comes in, because there is no policy, he tries and makes another hotel over there. This person who doesn't understand anything about sustainability comes and tries and makes a urban project into places like very delicate places like Sundarbans, high altitudes of Sikkim and Spiti, remote corners like Arunachal Pradesh. So this happens with the non-understanding of the mainstream tourism industry. So this is what we are missing, is a proper policy at the state level, going down to the district level, to be implemented by the panchayat. And this is where I think institutions like presidency, where you have a geography department, our students to be brought in, where this kind of rural tourism has to be interacted with the panchayats over there, and help them in creating these policies over there, so that these children also learn from the villages, and the villages also, they learn that how to create a guideline of governance, because tourism governance is completely missing from our constitution. We have all kinds of things, but when it comes to tourism, there is nothing known as tourism governance. So this is where I think, we have to create a guideline and a policy, implementable policy, which can be implemented at the panchayat level. I hope I could make you understand, sir.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, Rajda. Basically, I have been waiting a long to talk to you because I was not getting your appointment basically because one of my students, research scholar, basically, can you hear me,
Yes,
Rajda?
yes, I can.
Yeah,
I can.
yeah. One of my students, research scholar, she is doing her PhD on Sikkim and she is basically working on the power structure and the resource distribution system in the rural tourism in Sikkim, basically. So, and I have also visited Sikkim many times, and I have connections with people from Maniram village also, and many other
Yes.
people from tourism department. So I have seen one thing that there is a problem with the governance, and as you say that Presidency University can do it. Yes, I'm agree with your point. I really would want to. I'm very much willing to do that with you. So there is no problem with that. But the thing is that how we can make it possible this rural tourism from the informal sector to the formal sector, because as we have seen that, as I have seen from my experiences, I have seen that the homestay business and the rural tourism business in Sikkim is day by day going to be the informal sector, because anybody is starting the homestay business abruptly without having any kind of knowledge, and they are basically running the homestay business in form of hotel business basically. So the actual charm of homestay, the actual charm of rural tourism, the actual charm of village tourism, that are going to be obsolete in near future, what I'm afraid of basically, because the spirit used to be the rural tourism, but what is happening in real sense is tourism in rural area. So now if tourism in rural area is going to happen, then definitely it will be unsustainable. So definitely I will be looking forward to you to work in that particular field as you discussed about. And if you can just talk me about some scopes to if you can tell me how the governance part could be helped by us. So if you can actually put some
So,
light on that.
yes. So, Vijay sir, just let me tell you, a few years back, we had international conference on rurality and rural tourism at the Jamia Islamia University in Delhi, for which I was one of the, core organizing members over there. And we could bring in a lot of countries who are practicing this kind of rural tourism. And we saw that in most of these countries, the local universities and the institutions were involved in this policy making, which unfortunately in our country is missing. In our country, there is a lot of gap between academics and practices that are coming together. In some, we find out, like as I was saying, in architecture, we see that there are some institutions who teach architecture, but their architecture curriculum is more governed by the industry. So they are taught how to use cement, iron and glass and tin over there. Though the industry interference is there, but the local architecture is completely out of the course or optional or volunteering for the student over there. It is not an essential. The rural architecture that has been our strength for ages has actually been left out. So under such circumstances, what we have seen, it is very necessary that we have a subject with most of the geography departments from graduation and upwards, which should be known as rural tourism. And only then we can bring in a proper policy, which would be, as I said, which has to be, evolving. We cannot have with the immediate implementing policy on day one. So it has to be a trial and error method, evolving policy where the institutions have to get themselves involved. This is where, when we talk about Bengal, because rural Bengal is very well known for their rurality, and the rural practices of art, culture, and the lifestyle practices. So this is where I would like to see Presidency, Department of Tourism, Government of West Bengal, an organization like ours, collaborating together and bringing out a proper implementable policy, followed by training of the panchayat and the grassroots people. Then only after a period of probably 4 to 5 years, we would be able to see something which could be, discussed and not criticized about.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Raj. Thank you.
Thank you. We have successfully come to the end of today's event. I sincerely thank our respected Director, Madam Dr. Taputi Banerjee, for giving us this platform to share new ideas. I express our heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable Speaker, Mr. Raj Basu, for being with us here. I thank all the dignitaries, NATMO officers and staff members for being a part of this webinar and making it successful. And last but not the least, I would like to thank DST Government of India for their continuous support. Thank you so much for joining, and we will meet again very soon in the next webinar. Thank you all. Now I would request everyone to stand up for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे